Hey everyone, just wanted to show you what we've been thinking about doing with Black Rock Forest, and we tried it out in a patch of habitat with our practice drone, which is just an ordinary DJI Mavic Pro drone that you can buy off the shelf. It wasn't equipped with any fancy sensor, just has the stock camera that's built in it, but it was enough to get a sense if it was going to work. What you're looking at is a Google Earth image, and this is of a hayfield um, that's been mowed not too long ago. It's a nice place in that it's a sort of weedy field, but lots of diversity, lots of vegetation, and it's sort of cut through this forest here. So this image was probably taken in the winter. I don't see very much foliage in the trees. It's a little green, but it's hard to tell because resolution isn't very high. And I used a program called DroneDeploy. There are other drone programming languages that can do this. Actually, DroneDeploy has a problem in that it doesn't control the focus of the camera very well, but for the purposes of trying it out, it worked pretty well. What it did was Sarah and I were somewhere around here, and then it actually automatically, when we turned it over to the software, lifted the drone up to about 200 feet, taller than any tree in the area, then sort of zigzagged along here, and took images that later it would stitch together into one big image. If you want to see those images, this is actually the set of images. There are 29 images that it took, and they overlap with one another quite extensively. At 200 feet in height, and the wide angle of the lens meant that a single photograph actually covered quite a bit of area. And so 29 is a very small number of images to make a map with, but it did a pretty good job, at least for this particular exercise we're just trying out. So here's what the map looks like, and as you can see, it's summertime, and everything is pretty green. And these are the trees, which, again, something you have to watch out for when we're flying. And the software stitched together all of the photographs. I said I wanted a map, particularly in this region. You can see that it wasn't successful in this corner here, and it wasn't successful in that corner there. And there's a little patch missing here for some reason. But other than that, it put together a pretty nice map. The images that the camera took were sort of blurry. This is actually a current bug in the program. For this particular model of drone, it actually works much better with other drones, but hopefully they'll have that bug fixed. But you can see what it does. So imagine what we want to do is fly over a Black Rock Forest and take images of where the experiments are in which Bill Schuster and company have removed for many years oak trees to mimic what would happen if oaks were starting to die from a number of oak diseases which are currently attacking the trees in our region. Other things it can do, for example, is tell you what the elevation is. I wouldn't trust it. The trees are, so some of these are pretty high trees, and down here the grass is lower. But some people might find that useful. One thing it does, which I think is misleading, is it calculates something called plant health that looks at the ratio of red to green and blue, and then would argue that areas like this, for example, are not very green and fairly perhaps drier, or the vegetation is not as healthy. And then these streaks, you can sort of see this is where the mower has come when it, wouldn't call it a mower, the harvester is when it harvested the hay. There's a tree there that for some reason looks like it's less healthy than the other trees. I don't know. This actually does not translate ecophysiologically or scientifically into anything that's reliable at all, but people use it. I'm not sure why. The other thing you can do, which we're pretty interested in, is calculate a 3D model. And it does that by trying to figure out what the x, y, z coordinates are for every point in 3D space rather than 2D space. And this is the model that it generates. So it's pretty, it's pretty interesting. I'm not quite sure what you'd make of it. You can see that after it calculates the x, y, z coordinates for every single point, it then sort of wraps a sheet around it, and with that you can estimate volume. You might be interested in the volume of the forest and how that changes over time, maybe the volume of timber that's in there or the volume of the hay. How precise it is depends on how many photographs you have. 29 is it's not a lot to go by. I actually think that looking at the point cloud is more informative. Remember I said that what this actually does is calculates the XY coordinates, the XYZ in three-dimensional space for each of the points in the stitched together photographs. You can see that it cannot actually construct an image accurately underneath the tree because it can see under the tree, and there are other places where the cameras actually weren't able to see anything really well. If you turn it this way, you can see definitely cannot see what's underneath those trees, but from the top, it does a pretty good job. And just to show you what that means is if we were to zoom in, for example, to this tree here, you'll see that actually it's not a tree at all, that it's a series of points. And that's why it's called a point cloud, a cloud of points. There are all the points, there are all the little squares, and every square has its XYZ coordinate calculated. And so we know which squares are on top of which squares are below, who's left and right of each of them. We know where they are. And then you put it all together, and you get this, this nice sort of 3D image. So we're looking forward to doing this at Black Rock Forest and trying it out to see if we can get an estimate of what some of the impacts are for some of the factors that are changing our forests, including climate change, but also diseases, and pathogens, and insects, and other things that are changing the face of our planet. So thanks, everyone. Hope you found this entertaining. I still never get tired of looking at what we can do with photographic images these days. Take care, everyone.